Day 11 of the 25 million rand Nulane Investments trial kicks off this morning. Through this case, the state has obtained red notices for two of the Gupta brothers and hopes to extradite them to face criminal charges here in South Africa.
Pardon me, 6 people have been criminally charged in the state capture matter. And today, the High Court is expected to hear from a former Deloitte employee. Newzroom Afrika's Erin joins us now from the Free State High Court in Bloemfontein. Erin, you've been following this case since the start. Just remind us, good morning, who are the accused and what charges are they facing?
Yes, morning Michelle and Ayanda. So the 6 accused in this case include 3 former Free State government officials and 3 alleged business associates of the Gupta. Former department head Peter Tabete is facing a charge of flouting the PFMA, the Public Finance Management Act, and fraud. His colleague, another former department head, Dr. Lemakatso Mohorosi, is facing the same 2 charges. Then we've got Saipati Dlamini, the former CFO in the Agriculture Department. She's only facing a charge of fraud. Then in terms of those business people, Iqbal Sharma, who was a former Transnet board member, he's facing 2 counts of fraud charges and a money laundering charge. Ronika Raghavan of Oak Bay Investments, a former lieutenant of the Guptas, you could say, 2 charges of fraud and money laundering. Then Dinesh Patel, he's Iqbal Sharma's brother-in-law, he's facing 1 charge of fraud. And then Michelle, in addition to those 6 people, there are 2 companies here. These are alleged front companies for the Gupta family and their business interests. The one is Island Site Investments, that's represented by Patel. It's facing a money laundering charge and 2 counts of fraud charges. And then Nulane Investments, the key business in this case so far, because it was paid by the Free State government to do that feasibility study we've been talking about the last few weeks. It's facing a charge of money laundering and 2 counts of fraud charges as well. So in total, PFMA for those 2 former department heads, fraud, money laundering for the others.
The Gupta name is sort of a thread that runs through what you've just been telling us, Erin. This is a big case in many ways, right? It's the first state capture case that has actually gotten to the trial stage, and surely the Guptas themselves must play an important part in what we hear during this trial. Is there any word as yet on whether they will indeed be extradited, or what's the latest on that process?
Well, I believe it is Karen Morn of News 24 has done some following up on that. Last word was those 2 Gupta brothers, Rajesh Tony Gupta, who you might remember Duduzane Zuma called his guy when he testified at the Zondo Commission, and his brother Atul were both arrested around the middle of last year. They were taken into custody by Dubai police acting on Interpol red notices the NPA had obtained on the strength of the evidence of the indictment in this case, Michelle. And according to reports at the beginning of this year from News 24, they were still in custody with negotiations going on in order to ensure extradition to South Africa. Some are very skeptical those 2 brothers will ever appear in South Africa's criminal courts as criminally charged accused for their alleged misdemeanors, working in cahoots allegedly with former President Jacob Zuma. And of course it's the alleged Don, the godfather of the family, the patriarch of the Guptas, RJ, who is not subject to an Interpol red notice at the moment. Michelle, he's mentioned at length in the indictment from the NPA's ID, that special unit set up in 2019 by the President to deal with state capture matters, and so are some of the spouses of those trio Gupta brothers. But as yet, we haven't actually had that much evidence on them. It's when we get to the money laundering evidence critical to this case and the state's argument that we're likely to hear more about the Guptas. What I can tell you, Michelle, is that several companies and alleged associates worldwide, we're talking about associates in India, Dubai, and indeed South Africa, are named in the indictment, and companies such as Oak Bay, of course, Gateway Limited, Pragat Investments, Wone Management, and then this World's Window Works Impacts India. Michelle, that's that New Delhi, India-based company which wrote to the Free State government in October of 2011, congratulating it on Mohoma Mobung, a venture to empower Free State black farmers. This is a scrap metal business based in New Delhi, part of a bigger group, but they put up their hand and said, we'd love to go in a private-public partnership with you, but we want a feasibility study done first. Oh, and we'd like to choose who does that feasibility study. And somehow, that is how the name of Nulane Investments, allegedly this front company for the Gupta family, came up. And we've heard testimony that it was one of those Free State government officials who actually gave the letter from this India company for scrap metal to colleagues in order to get Nulane Investments onto the records, onto the payment systems, stat, so that they could start siphoning millions into their coffers.
Yeah, we now know it as this bogus feasibility study, right? So a Deloitte witness is on the stand next. What do you reckon is likely to come up?
So Omri van Zyl was previously in an agriculture division of Deloitte. I understand he is now the CEO of Agri-SA, and he's going to testify on the work done on Deloitte's version of the feasibility study sold to the Free State government. We understand that the state's case is that Deloitte did the actual work. It did the donkey's work, the grunt work, the leg work on that document. And Nulane, according to the state's case, only made a few cosmetic changes and then charged the Free State government 24.9 million rand for it, when Deloitte was only paid 1.5 million rand. So Van Zyl should give us some more insight into the actual work done by Deloitte. But Michelle, here's where things could get really interesting today. Already we're getting a sense that some of the counsel for the accused here, including Kenny Oldwage, an advocate, not a senior counsel, for Dinesh Patel, Iqbal Sharma's brother-in-law, has some information that there was more back and forth between Deloitte and Nulane Investment over several months than the state may have initially thought. And he's likely to use that to argue that Nulane Investments made significant changes to the report which justified it coining some 17 times what Deloitte was paid for the document.
Day 11 of this 25 million rand Nulane Investments trial kicking off today. Erin Bates, thanks very much indeed.